the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. You know, sometimes it feels like there's just too much news flying around, right? That's kind of where we step in. We dig through all the articles, the reports, the notes, whatever we can find to pull out the really key stuff you need. Today, we're looking at a pretty major new trade agreement, high stakes, potentially changing quite a bit between the U.S. and the EU.
Yeah, high stakes is definitely the right way to put it. The negotiations leading up to this were apparently pretty intense. We've got a news report here, quite recent, and we're going to, break it down and see what's really inside this deal.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this, because the headline might sound simple, but the numbers and the context behind it are actually massive. So the basic news is this. President Donald Trump announced what everyone's calling a landmark trade deal, U.S. and EU. The source we're looking at paints it as a big win for American energy, for economic leadership. And when you look closer, yeah, the figures are huge. It feels like it's not just trade, it's really about maybe reshaping energy alliances globally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's being called a landmark, mainly because of what the EU committed to. It's two big things. First, they've agreed to buy a huge amount of U.S. energy exports. We're talking $750 billion worth.
Yeah.
That number alone really cements America's position as a global energy player, big time. And then on top of that, they pledged another $600 billion in new investments here in the U.S. That's extra investment beyond what they were already planning.
Wow, okay. Those numbers are, yeah, they're staggering. And Trump himself, he pointed right to them, didn't he? I think the quote was, the European Union is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. No. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So clearly he sees this as a major accomplishment.
So how did this all come together? Where did these talks happen? The announcement itself, that was Sunday, July 27, 2025. Trump was talking with Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, over in Turnberry, Scotland. Yeah, but the backstory, the context there is really crucial. Our source mentions this, clock ticking toward a Friday deadline. There were some pretty steep tariffs potentially coming into play. And Trump's whole approach, the America First strategy, was basically, look, we need a better deal for the U.S. otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, tariffs. The source said the U.S. position was firm. Nothing less than the 15% tariff across the board on EU imports would be acceptable if no deal was reached.
Okay, let's clarify that tariff threat because it sounds serious. We're talking about tariffs on most things coming from Europe, jumping from the current, 10%, jumping all the way up to 30%, starting August 1st. Just a few days later, that's a huge leap.
Massive.
Think about European cars, food, luxury goods. Everything would get way more expensive for Americans. And this was linked directly to what Trump called one of the largest trade deficits the U.S. has with the EU, basically buying way more from them than selling to them. He framed it as Europe not making a fair deal back by an earlier deadline, July 9th.
Right. And you get a sense of that tension when von der Leyen herself acknowledges Trump's style. She apparently told him he's known as a tough negotiator and deal maker. Our source picked up on that quote, which, clearly speaks to how those American interests were being pushed hard in the talks.
A tough negotiator.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a bit of calculated flattery there, or just stating the obvious maybe, but it definitely shows how much pressure the EU felt and how solid that U.S. position seemed. And Trump doubled down, right? Saying basically, if you don't have a deal by Friday, you get hit with new duties. No exceptions.
Yep, no exceptions.
Except for steel and aluminum, he noted, because they were already facing those really high 50% tariffs. He said, most of the deals, aside from steel and aluminum, where we've already been hitting them with 50%, will see new duties starting Friday. So yeah, the message was consistent, very firm. So, okay, these huge commitments, especially on energy, what does this all mean beyond the sort of headline win? Are there potential downsides or challenges maybe the source doesn't spell out?
Well, looking at the immediate impact, it seems like it does two main things. First, it definitely seems to strengthen those transatlantic ties, that relationship between the U.S. and EU. But maybe more importantly for folks here, it's presented as a really significant win for American workers, industries, and the broader economy. So for you listening, that could potentially mean things like more stable energy prices down the line, maybe, new jobs in industries, getting that European investment. It also probably means shifts in supply chains, which might affect the price or availability of some European products. Our source really stresses that this shows Trump's ability to negotiate deals that put U.S. interests first.
Yeah, and the quotes from Trump really capture that feeling of victory, don't they? He said things like, we were able to make a deal that's very satisfactory to both sides, and it's a very powerful deal. It's a very big deal. And he even called it, I think you mentioned this earlier, the biggest of all the deals.
Right. So what started as a pretty tense negotiation ended up as this huge trade and investment agreement. It definitely seems poised to boost American energy leadership and bring some significant economic gains. Hopefully, this deep dive helped you kind of cut through the noise and get a better handle on what this actually involves, whether you're watching markets or just curious about U.S.-Europe relations.
Absolutely. And it does leave you wondering, doesn't it? Thinking about the longer term. What are the real ripple effects going to be? When you commit to this much energy export, this much foreign investment, how does that change global energy markets or even, the bigger geopolitical picture way beyond just the immediate dollars and cents?
That's a great point. The long-term consequences could be really far-reaching. We definitely encourage you to keep digging into the topics that catch your interest. Keep asking questions. Until next time.
In the heart of this nation, under skies so blue, there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true. From the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're dying